Hey guys, so today we're doing another one topic video. My last video was about Elle Darby, who's a UK influencer, and we're doing another UK influencer today. Are we moving to the UK side, back with kind of my roots from, why did that sentence just not make sense from the first word? I don't know why I even continued going into the sentence, fully well knowing that it wasn't going to make sense. Are we going back to my roots with the UK influencers? When I first started, I was talking about Alfie Days and Casper Lee and Zoella, and then I started talking about James Charles and Jeffrey, and then my audience moved heavily to the US, but maybe we're moving back to my roots because the US is so boring right now. You guys are not doing anything, but we're getting some drama on the UK side of things. So if you guys are interested, subscribe, hit that bell, like, comment for engagement. And if you don't, do you guys remember when I used to do this? If you don't, this video a thumbs up and do all of the above, you will step on a Lego. No one wants that, let's be honest now, okay? And put any other inconveniences in the comments and I'll use them for future videos. Obviously, it's probably not going to happen, but I would love to threaten you guys with it. So let's just get into my notes. Who are we talking about today? I'm asking you guys, yeah? You saw from the title who we're talking about. Molly Mae. So this is super interesting because I think Molly Mae's career path, just looking at it, we could have seen this coming. I feel like we could have seen this coming, and it has happened, and we see it coming. It's here. It has come, and I'm going to explain why I thought this would happen at some point, because I think her career has been very up and down with the public's opinion of her, and I feel like now what happened makes sense, absolutely makes sense. And do I agree with her? No. I want to start from the get-go that I think what she said was coming from a very privileged point of view, and just as a little, what's it called? Just as a little disclaimer, I do not agree with what she said. I do think what she said is wrong, but I also want to come into this video with an objective mindset of giving a for and against for what was being said, and I want to give an objective overview of everything. So I'm not going to keep on saying, oh, I disagree with this, because then the video is going to be 5 hours long. Just so you know, I don't agree with what she said, and I'm going to get into why in a minute, but I just want to be as objective as possible throughout my whole video. So let's just get into it. Molly Mae is a 22-year-old influencer born on the 26th of May 1999, making her 22, which I think is insane because she's literally a year older than me, and she first of all looks a lot older than me, which isn't a bad thing. I don't think looking older or more mature is a bad thing. I feel like there's this weird connotation with women and aging that we just need to debunk. I think she looks amazing. She looks mature. She dresses in a way that isn't like a 21-year-old or 22-year-old would dress. I think she looks probably 25, I'd say, but in a good way. She looks 25 in a good way. She just looks really mature, and she behaves in a more mature way. Like, she's already moved in with her boyfriend, she's been living with him for a while, she's living a very mature lifestyle for a 22-year-old, and I think that's where the downfall begins. It's her living a lifestyle of someone that's much older than her while also having the brain of a 22-year-old. So she says ignorant things as a 22-year-old would without any life experience, but then there's more being expected of her because she presents herself as someone who is older than 22, if that makes sense. Am I making sense? I hope I am. She's from Hitchin, Hertfordshire, which is also, it's kind of giving me similar vibes to Elle Darby, where it's a very white British environment that she grew up in. She grew up in a middle-class household. Both her parents were police officers. She clearly didn't have many financial or class status struggles in her life. So when she says things about people's financial situations or opportunities being presented, she comes from a very ignorant point of view. And I think that's something that she can learn. That is something that she can unlearn and then learn. But I think because she came from a privileged, all British, white area with a middle-class family, to then being an influencer and being a multi-millionaire, she never had that struggle financially in between. So when she talks about things, it comes across very ignorant, because it is very ignorant, because she literally has zero financial struggle experience to be able to talk about. And she also probably doesn't do enough research on class disparity and how things work in the real world. So she's very just uneducated on financial issues and financial struggles, and I think that's where a lot of these issues have stemmed from now. And like, look, I think it's something she can learn about. Like, I don't think this should be like the end of her career, like, you know, end her, cancel her, but I think this is a good learning point from her, for her, not from her, for her. It's a good learning point for her to be able to take things on board and maybe do a little bit more charity work, or volunteer at homeless shelters, or just learn more about how being from different areas, being from different backgrounds, her race, how a lot of the privileges that she has have contributed to her now being a millionaire, and how many people, even in the UK, do not have the same privileges to be able to get those same opportunities that she has been given. So yeah, I'm just going to keep on relinking back to the main scandal for today, even though this whole video isn't about the scandal. I'm just going to keep on relinking it because I think Like I said, I think a lot of the things that we knew about Molly Mae were building up to this scandal. So I'm not even surprised that this happened. I'm really not. Like, I think I expected this to happen at some point. As a kid, she took part in beauty pageants. She was Miss Teen Hut 2015 and World's Teen Supermodel UK 2016. And she was the first runner-up for the international competition that, you know, she won the world one, she won the local one, and she was first runner-up for the international version of it, which once again, it's a very privileged hobby to have. She's the beauty standard in the UK. She's blonde, white, blue eyes. She is the beauty standard. It's very easy for her to take part in these things that have given her more experience that she then probably could have used in the interview process for Love Island and so on and so forth. It's things that she can put on her CV that aren't really things that she worked for. It's just because she is the beauty standard, it was very easy for her to win these competitions. So once again, another privilege in the UK. Or on just like the Western side of things. So then she became a YouTuber and Instagrammer. She had, I believe in an interview, she said she had 170,000 followers on Instagram before she went into Love Island. But I'm not sure how much she had on her YouTube channel. So 170k is quite a lot. Now, once again, she is able-bodied, she is white, she's blonde hair, blue eyes, she is the beauty standard. It's very easy to become a fashion lifestyle blogger when you are what people want to be or what is advertised as beautiful. So once again, another privilege that has led up to her not really understanding how difficult it is for some people to be able to do the same job as her. She then has applied for season 5 of Love Island. That was in 2019 and she obviously got in. Now this is another privilege. When you go to Love Island, if you stay the whole time, you're away for about 3 months. People have children at a young age. People go through poverty. People are homeless. People are addicted to things. People don't have jobs, or they have jobs that they can't take 3 months off for. She was an influencer before she went to Love Island, so her taking 3 months off was completely possible. Also, she comes from a middle-class background. I'm assuming if she had told her parents that she's going to Love Island, they would be more than willing to help her out financially in some way, shape or form. So this is another privilege. Not everyone, even if they are stunning, beautiful, talented, entertaining, not a lot of people can take 3 months off real life to go to Love Island for an opportunity to have a career. So this is yet another privilege that she had a more flexible job, which is being an influencer, and she was able to take 3 months off to go to Love Island and have this opportunity being basically handed to her for just being beautiful. That's just what it is. Molly Mae is an attractive girl, but she's a stereotypically beauty standard in the Western world attractive female. So it's just it was very easy for her to get into Love Island because of these things and because of her having a flexible schedule. It's just all a bunch of privileges that we're going through here. Love Island, so immediately disliked. She was immediately disliked only because I believe because she was an influencer before she went to Love Island, people assumed, you know, by season 5 of Love Island, people understand what the reason is for people going to Love Island, which is definitely not for love. It's definitely to build a career. And I think that then is heightened, that like idea and that thought is then heightened when you already are an influencer, which means like you're already in that world, you know how it works, and you're probably just trying to further your career by going to Love Island, which she then confirmed in an interview, by the way. In that same interview that we're going to talk about today, she did confirm that she did not go to Love Island for love. But a lot of people, you know, magazines, newspapers, did accuse her of being a gold digger or digging for fame or basically not being there for love and not being there for the reasons that she should be there for, if that makes sense. So she was immediately disliked for being an influencer and people just assumed that she just wanted the clout. She was called money hungry and fake and that their relationship wouldn't last, which is actually ironic because Tommy and Molly are the only couple to stay together from that season. That whole season, no other couple stayed together. They have moved in together, they are together. They seem to be thriving, which look, at the end of the day, and she said this in the interview that I will be talking about. I hate to be jumping back and forth, but I think it just all links together. She did say that she believes the relationship worked out because she didn't go to Love Island with the intention of finding love. And I think what it is when you're not looking for love, you're going to find it. And anyone else that went into the island being desperate for love went into relationships that maybe just weren't perfect because they were just desperate for love. And because she came into this wanting a career and then find Tommy by accident, it kind of almost became more healthy that way because none of them were desperate for love. So I kind of agree with that point, but if you're going to Love Island, you should probably be looking for love. So she was the runner-up with Tommy. She got second place in Love Island. She didn't win the final. Who won? Amber won from that season. And she's not together with the guy that she left with. I can't even remember his name because he was literally in Love Island for like 2 episodes before the final. It was crazy. But she's back with her ex and she actually moved to Dubai. Crazy. I literally just saw this on Snapchat. Anyway, she signed a deal with Pretty Little Thing upon leaving, which people are estimating, and she kind of hinted at what it was. It was anywhere between 500k to £1 million for that deal, and it wasn't the highest offer that she got. So she talks about integrity a lot and how much trust from her audience means to her. So she says that when she left Love Island, Fran, who's her manager, actually had reached out to her parents while Molly Mae was still in Love Island and offered them to kind of help go through emails and sort through different proposals so that Molly Mae had something to like come back to, if that makes sense. So Fran had sorted through all the emails and picked out like the 10 best deals. And when Molly Mae landed in Heathrow, I'm assuming, back in the UK, Fran was there with her parents and she said, hey, I have all these offers for you. Your parents gave me the responsibility of like looking for them. So here are the offers. And apparently Pretty Little Thing was nowhere near the highest offer. She actually said that the highest offer was 3 times larger than Pretty Little Thing, but she had personally worked with Pretty Little Thing as a smaller influencer and she just enjoyed working with them. So she was actually waiting for Pretty Little Thing to give her a deal, and they didn't give her the highest bid, but she still took it. And actually Pretty Little Thing wasn't even like the offer that she got as she stepped out. Like there were 10 brands that came to her pretty much at the airport, and then Pretty Little Thing had like a Zoom meeting with her a week later, and that was the one that she was waiting for, and that's the one she took, which I think it contributes to her success with Pretty Little Thing. I think she truly believes in the brand, she enjoys it, and it speaks a lot to her integrity, which is a good point for Molly Mae. She didn't take the highest offer, she took the offer that she actually believed in, and since then she's worked with Pretty Little Thing a lot, and I'll get into that in a minute. So anyway, her and her manager Fran actually recently did a Q&A about how it is to manage Molly Mae. And they talked about this exactly, and they talked about how, you know, dedicated and hardworking Molly Mae is, yada, yada, yada. Now, I hear a lot of influencers, including myself, complaining about the job. At the end of the day, there are not many jobs in which you can do this little labor for this much money, if that makes sense. If you were to work any other job, you would have to do a lot more work for the money that influencers get paid. And that's more physical labor or just more mental labor or just putting in hours of work. In this job, you know, you get paid, for example, if you do an advertisement, like Molly Mae will do an ad for Pretty Little Thing, right? On Instagram, she'll do #ad. Realistically, how long does it take to take that individual picture versus how much does she get paid for it? That picture can take 10 minutes to take, but she could get paid 50,000 for it. There are not many jobs in which you can get paid £50,000 for 10 minutes of work. So the stress, the trolls, the criticism, the, you know, whatever, is difficult to deal with mentally, but there are not many jobs in which you will make this much money in return. So I think as much as influencers can complain, I think it does come across as very privileged, and we all catch ourselves doing it, and then you really just have to reel it back and just understand how privileged you are and what kind of a position you are in, because Molly Mae has admitted to making many, many millions of pounds. So if someone's working a minimum wage job and they're hearing her complain about it, oh, it just leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. Do you know what I mean? Because not many 22-year-olds are going to make that much money for basically doing nothing. And people have now started bringing up, you know, in how many vlogs she says that she woke up at 2 p.m. or that she's just rewatching Harry Potter or that she's like reorganizing her wardrobe, and then she'll post a video about buying a brand new Range Rover. Do you know what I mean? Not many people can have that much of a relaxed lifestyle and be able to afford the things that she can afford. So that's where a lot of, I think, people's animosity towards Molly Mae has come from. It is from the complaints about her lifestyle, but also living a very privileged lifestyle once again. And I think that just comes from her never having to work a day in her life properly, never having to struggle for money, never having to like actually suffer the consequences of like financial strain. She claims that she had a few part-time jobs as a teenager and that when she was first doing influencing and she moved to Manchester, she could barely afford rent. But realistically, if she couldn't afford rent, she could either move back to her parents' house or her parents would help her out financially. So there was never really a financial strain for her. There was never a risk that she was taking because she always had a plan B. She always had a backup. Backup being from a middle-class household. Like, that was her backup. She also, as a teenager, instead of going to regular sixth form in her local area, she would actually travel from outside of London into London for fashion college, which I don't know if you guys know, but buying the train, she's not buying an actual train. Buying a train pass every single day to go to college is very expensive. And I'm assuming at the age of 16 to 18, her parents were probably covering that, which is also another privileged position. A lot of people are very good at fashion. A lot of people are very good at, you know, everything that she was trying to do, but they do not have the money or the means to go to a fashion college at the age of 16 to 18 because their parents are on minimum wage jobs and cannot afford to pay £400 a month for a train pass to send their kids to London to a fashion school. They're going to send their kids to a regular college in their local area and just hope that they end up in a really good job later on. So the fact that she was able to pursue some of those like more weird dreams like fashion and modeling, etc., it just goes to show it's yet another privilege because she was able to do that financially. Anyway, there's so many tangents here because I think Molly Mae is such an interesting character, and I think there's so much interesting happening there. And I don't think she's a bad person. I think it just all comes from ignorance and not having to struggle in life. And yeah, there aren't many struggles. Like, I know that everyone struggles, don't get me wrong. I know everyone has their struggles in life. No one's life is perfect. No one's life is amazing. I'm sure she has struggled mentally or, you know, mental health, whatever it is. But you do have to have some self-awareness in understanding how much you're struggling versus how much someone else is struggling. And sometimes saying things can come across as just privileged. So just sometimes just wording things differently or just not saying something is your best bet. These are the deals that she got when she left Love Island. After Love Island, she started to be really liked because of her work ethic, I guess. So people kind of noticed that as much as her job is easy, being an influencer is an easy job, there's not much labor there, she did seem to be the most hardworking out of everyone from Love Island. I don't think we have ever seen, in all 5 seasons, I don't think we've ever seen anyone come out of Love Island with such like drive to be an influencer. And I do respect that in her. I do respect the hustle and the grind to understand that this is like 5 minutes of fame, and if she doesn't make use of this 5 minutes, she's going to be out just like the rest of them. Because how many people from Love Island you just never hear about? And you go on their Instagrams and they're getting like 5,000 likes a picture, and they're doing like teeth whitening, fit tea ads that they're barely getting paid for, or they're having to go back to regular jobs. You know, I do respect her coming out of Love Island and just grabbing it and just going with it. Because if she had stopped for even a minute to like think, you know, everyone would have forgotten about her. But because immediately upon leaving the island, she was like, I'm on it, my Instagram, this. She's one of the most followed, if not the most followed Love Islander ever. She got amazing deals, immediately started working with brands, immediately started her own brands. I think that adds to her success, and people really found it admirable how much she tried, you know, upon leaving the island. But then again, it's easy to try when you're already handed the opportunities, because many people would have done the same amount of work as her, if not more, if they were just handed the same opportunities, but they just weren't. Like I said a few minutes ago, she was able to take 3 months out of her life to go on an island and find love and start her influencing career. Not many people can do that. So yes, she worked hard, but a lot of people would also work this hard if they were given the same opportunity as her. So it's not like special. I'm not complimenting her on anything outlandish. It's not something that's super like, oh my god, like out of this world, like oh my god, how could she ever do that? But yeah, I think a lot of people just respected the grind that she put in to being an influencer, and she did a lot. People started to really like her. You know, her fashion style was really good, her Instagram is really nice, her vlogs are really fun. She seems a little bit down to earth still, even though she, you know, is very, very rich. But she had a few hiccups here and there. You know, people were kind of pissed off at how much she posts really expensive things, and that links to a future scandal. People were starting to see that she is privileged and that it's hard to relate to someone who can spend 40,000 on one bracelet. You know, it's very difficult to relate to that. Anyway, the brands that she has worked with, she's the only influencer in the UK to get a Starbucks deal, like an actual Starbucks deal, because that's the only thing she would drink, and Fran made that happen for her, which is yet another thing of like, I'm glad that she liked Starbucks and she got a Starbucks deal. She didn't just start working with Costa because she likes Starbucks, and she stuck with her guns to not promote another coffee brand until Starbucks reached out to her. I respect it. I think I respect her integrity in that sense. I think that's a really admirable thing. She's not a sellout, right? She started working with Beauty Works on hair products. So she got like a hair curler, some clips, some extensions, very nice. Also another thing that she's used, she's known for having extensions, curling her hair. She had that special hairstyle in Love Island that everyone wanted to copy. So she did that with Beauty Works so that other people can copy her hairstyle. Very good, very full of integrity, amazing. She has her own tanning range, and then she works with Pretty Little Thing. I don't know why I said that so weird, Pretty Little Thing. And she has done a few deals, I think 2 or 3 collections with them, and then has become the creative director of Pretty Little Thing, but I'll get into that scandal in a minute. So then she had her house break-in, which had very mixed reactions. So she lived in Manchester in like a penthouse. There was like a lift going up into her house, and you just walk out into her apartment. And she has shown all of it. She did like a house tour. And then someone broke into her house when she was doing a shoot in London, and she found out about it. She came back, you know, everything was stolen, all designer goods, everything was stolen. And she has immediately moved out into a different place. And obviously a lot of people felt bad for her. It's an awful thing to come back to. But a lot of people also had issues with the fact that she has shown every crevice and corner of her house, shown every expensive purchase that she has ever made, and then almost expected to not have a break-in. Now, is that a little bit victim blamey? Absolutely. But do I think it's a good learning curve for her? Not that she deserved it in any way, shape or form, but she did say in the interview that we'll be talking about in a minute that this has taught her just how careful she has to be. And I think she kind of not needed this. Absolutely not. I don't think you need to have someone break into your house and invade your privacy. But I think this is definitely a good, like, oh, this is how famous I am. It's a reminder of how famous she is and how many people, also bad people, watch her Instagram stories. Because I'm assuming that a lot of these people watch Instagram stories to know if she's out of town. And I think that will help her be more safe in the future. But I wish she could have learned that lesson without having her privacy invaded, right? But she did say that she's almost, if you can say that, grateful for this because it has taught her how to be more safe. And it helped her understand just how famous she is and how many bad people are looking for any mishaps and, you know, mistakes from Molly Mae. So I'm glad that she has learned from this. And she is now just not showing her house. No one knows where she lives. She doesn't really show anything. And she has toned down on showing the expensive stuff on her stories. But then controversies. Oh, about the house break-in, obviously from an objective, no. Objective, I already mentioned. Subjectively, I don't believe that anyone should have a house broken into. I think that's pretty obvious. I don't wish that upon anyone. I don't think that's a learning lesson that anyone should be going through. But I'm glad that she took that and made it into something positive and made her life more safe. So I'm glad that she didn't like break down and, you know, whatever. I'm glad that she's taken this upon herself as just like a learning lesson and that she's able to work on that now. But obviously I don't think anyone should have a house broken into. It's awful. Controversies. August 2021, she became the creative director of Pretty Little Thing, which she worked on that deal for probably 6 months, and then Fran made it happen for her. At that point, I saw a shift yet again. So Molly Mae is on Love Island. Everyone hates her, thinks she's a gold digger. She leaves Love Island. People see her hustle grind. People start to find her likable and people start defending her a lot. There is a shift. 180 degrees. People love her. And then I think from the Pretty Little Thing creative director thing, I saw a 180-degree turn. Now, hear me out. It's because people don't think that she's qualified for the job. People think that she only got it because of the privilege of being on Love Island and being an influencer, and that there are many people who have gone down this path in education that are never going to get this role because they're not Molly Mae, because they're just some random person with a degree. And so people are just really upset at the fact that she has been yet again handed another job position that she's not necessarily educated in. People just were really upset. Anyway, if Pretty Little Thing thinks that she deserves this job position, who am I to say otherwise? But I do see people's criticisms of this is yet another just privilege that she's been handed that she didn't necessarily have to work for, because she didn't go to uni for this. She didn't, you know, prove herself in some way. She just did a few collections with them. They did well, so they gave her the creative director position. People think it's just yet another privilege that comes out of being a stereotypically beauty standard person who is also an influencer who went on Love Island. Like, this is just yet another privilege that many people who are better than her would not be handed. Like, I'm sure there are many people that are much better at the job than she is, but they're never going to be handed this position because they're a different race, or they've had different backgrounds, or they have a different financial situation, or they just weren't able to have the same privileges as Molly Mae has been able to have, aka going on Love Island. Which, Love Island in itself, a lot of people say it's a privilege for white people. If you look at the cast every single year, there are like a few non-white people, and they usually get kicked off very quickly. A lot of the guys that go on Love Island, their type is blonde, white, blue eyes. So a lot of black women that come in just have no chance at all because these men are not interested in them, because they just keep on picking men that are not interested in anyone other than white, blonde, blue eyes. So people are also saying that this is more a racial issue as well, because Molly Mae being blonde, white with blue eyes helped her get as far as she did in Love Island, because a lot of the men that go on Love Island are interested in her type. So this is just, it's all linked together, right? This is, I'm just trying to link it all together like a map in my head. Then we had showing flashy things, aka the 40,000 Cartier bracelet, showing her mum's house when she was given a car, and that was after her house was broken into. She showed the outside of her mum's house. And then we have Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast from the 13th of December. And this only started blowing up recently on TikTok. So she said that she had a normal life, normal family, no private school, etc. Just because you didn't go to private school doesn't mean you're not middle class. I think private school is for upper class people, but being middle class is also a privilege. And I think having 2 police officer parents puts you in the middle class bracket, if that makes sense. Both parents worked in the police, which is what she said. She went to fashion school for 2 years. She wanted to do performing arts, but knew that she wouldn't make it. She did a few auditions and it just never worked out. So she went into fashion because she thought it was like an easier option for her. She didn't want an ordinary life, and that looking at her parents horrified her. Like, she never wanted to live that life. Then she did drop, during the interview, the clip that's been going viral, which is the everyone has 24 hours in a day. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. We have one life. Mentions the Beyonce thing, like, oh, Beyonce has 24 hours and I have 24 hours. So why is it that she can be successful and I can't?
Beyonce has the same 24 hours in a day that we do. And I just think, like, you're given one life and it's down to you what you do with it. Like, you can literally go in any direction. And when I've spoken about that before in the past, I have been slammed a little bit with people saying, you know, like, it's easy for you to say that, you know, you've grown up and you've not grown up in poverty. You've not grown up, you know, with major money struggles. So for you to sit there and say that we all have the same 24 hours in a day is not correct. And I'm like, but technically what I'm saying is correct. We do. So I understand that obviously we all have different backgrounds and we're all raised in different ways and we do have different financial situations. But I think if you want something enough, you can achieve it. And it just depends to what lengths you want to go to get where you want to be in the future. And I'll go to any lengths. Like, I've worked my absolute arse off to get where I am now.
Which a lot of people are just like, it's saying we all have the same 24 hours in a day is actually almost factually incorrect. Yes, we theoretically all have 24 hours in a day, but it's not the same 24 hours in a day. We all have 24 hours, but if you are homeless, addicted to drugs, from a different racial background, your 24 hours are not the same 24 hours as Molly Mae's privileged 24 hours are. And I hate to be this harsh, I hate to say it in such a harsh way, but we do not all have the same 24 hours. If you were raised in a middle-class household with a lot of privileges that came with that, your 24 hours is very different than someone who grew up in a household, you know, that had more kids or a lower income, or yeah, just not everyone's 24 hours is the same. And I'm glad I built up the privilege throughout this video so you guys can see what I'm talking about. She came from a very privileged background, so her 24 hours is actually more efficient and more effective than someone else's 24 hours who didn't have the same privileges of looking like Molly Mae, being from the same house as Molly Mae, having the same childhood as Molly Mae, having the same opportunities as Molly Mae. So her 24 hours is a lot easier than other people's 24 hours. She does, to her credit, when she says the 24-hour thing, she does mention background, raising, etc. So how you've been raised, what your background is, etc. But she mentions it in such a fleeting, quick way that it didn't have the same impact as it should have had. She talks about trust with audience, which I do agree that she has built up a trust with the audience due to her integrity. She says having the right manager after Love Island is key. She says that Love Island was a business move for her, yes, but she did find love from it. She says that when she reaches one goal, she wants more. And she says that one of her goals was to have 1 million in her bank account, and that when she reached that, she actually wasn't very happy, and that she just immediately wanted 2 million. Which, if that doesn't show the privilege that she is dealing with here, then I don't know what does. Because I don't think there are many people in the UK that are ever going to have £1 million in their bank account. Like, I just don't think that's possible. So it just goes to show her privilege. She went from middle-class household to then upper-class influencer. There was never a struggle there, at least financially. I'm not saying no other struggles in her life. I'm saying financially, there was no struggle. She says that she's been trolled online, paparazzi taking unflattering pictures of her, Daily Mail posting unflattering pictures of her, mental breakdowns, etc. I think that's all very valid, but I do think, you know, when you show off Cartier bracelets and Rolexes and Range Rovers, showing all of that and then being like, oh, whoa, me, my life is so difficult, it does leave a bad taste in people's mouth. And I think that's where the issues arise, because people would love to have this lifestyle. People would kill for this lifestyle. Like, people want this. People, or at least people just don't want to struggle. So when there are people actively struggling and like dealing with customer service, which also you get so much shit when you work in customer service for a fraction of the money that you make. So when people are struggling and getting the same amount of hate from people as you are, or similar amount of hate, do you know what I mean, but just like in person, and you're out here making millions and having millions in your bank account and you're complaining, I think it just leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. I think that's the point. That was very loud. She then also said, and I thought it was so ironic, she said that everything she does or posts affects her and that she's always scared of posting like the wrong thing. And then this interview came out and it was the wrong thing. It's very ironic how it just came out in this podcast. And then she also, in a different bit of the podcast, said she's always thinking about like what her next scandal is going to be and when she's going to be cancelled. And here it is. Oh,
and I mean, I always say, like, when I don't have like a scandal for a while, I'm thinking, God, scandal's coming soon. I'm going to say something wrong soon. Like,
she talked about posting expensive things and the break-in, and yeah, I agree with her not posting that stuff anymore. I think it's just much safer for her. She talks about hate, how there is like a double standard with women, having more hate thrown their way than men, which I do agree with. I do think that sometimes she is being held to an unrealistic standard. Like, for example, she went to Italy and she said she didn't like the food and everyone had to go at her, which, like, is Italian food really good? Yeah, but it's because I like Italian food. If someone doesn't like it, they're not gonna like it. Like, I think it's perfectly fine for her to say that she didn't like the food. I think there is an unrealistic standard being set for her sometimes. But sometimes I do think the hate is valid, like in this case. She talks about filler and how she had all of it dissolved to have a more natural looking appearance, and I think that's very admirable. She did that, and then a lot of young women removed their filler as well because they noticed that it's just setting unrealistic standards for other people, and I think it was just a good thing in general. I think that series blew up for her heavily on TikTok, and she was very, like, praised for it, and I do agree. I think Instagram is setting such unrealistic standard for younger women that it's just, it's getting crazy at this point, and I'm glad that she kind of reeled back and she was like, look, I'm gonna go natural, you go natural, we all go natural, and then we stop this, like, Photoshop, plastic surgery stuff. I think if you want to get plastic surgery done, do it for yourself. But I think when Instagram influencers, you know, get plastic surgery and then they Photoshop and then they don't disclose any of it and then they sell you products that are supposed to make you look like them, but they're not going to make you look like them, it all gets a bit crazy. The actual host of the podcast, who is Steven, said that she shouldn't be forced to talk about things that she doesn't understand or isn't, like, an expert in. So, like, if she doesn't know anything about politics, she shouldn't talk about politics, etc. Which I agree with to a certain extent. But I think there is always time to educate yourself so that you can be made aware of the things. But also, if she shouldn't be forced to talk about things she doesn't understand, then I don't think this podcast was a great move for her, because she clearly doesn't understand financial struggles that people go through. And she was talking about these things as if she knew them, which left a bad taste in people's mouths. So it's also very ironic that he said that. He was like, you don't have to talk about things you don't understand. But then the whole podcast is her talking about how easy it is to become rich. And, like, all it takes is just hard work, 24 hours a day. It's like, there are so many people in the UK working really hard that are never going to be millionaires. And are they working any less hard than Molly Mae? No. Do they have a different 24 hours in their day? No. But are they ever going to become millionaires? No. Why? Because they didn't have the same privileges that she had growing up, right? It's like hard work and 24 hours is not the end all be all to being a billionaire, because if that was the case, we'd all be Jeff Bezos, but we're not. She does mention, which I do respect, the property ladder in the UK is wild, mainly in London. And she talks about how she's very privileged in how much money she has, so it's very easy for her to enter the property ladder. But there are many people in the UK who will never be able to buy a house unless they move out of London, at least, or the main cities, because it literally is impossible at this point to buy a home in London with the current wages in London, unless you're literally a multi-millionaire. With stamp duty, mortgages, deposits, it's impossible to buy a house or enter the property ladder the way it was 50 years ago. So I do respect her for bringing that point up, but it doesn't take away from all the other ignorance in the podcast that she has talked about. She then also talks about slowing down and enjoying life and enjoying kind of where you are in the moment. And I think it's very easy to slow down and enjoy your life when you are a multi-millionaire, or just a millionaire. Not even just multi, just a millionaire. It's very easy to slow down and just enjoy where you are when you're not worried about whether you're going to make rent the next month, or that you're living paycheck to paycheck, or that, you know, if an accident happens or an emergency pops up, you're not going to have enough money to cover it. I think it's very easy to once again say, oh, slow down, just enjoy where you are in life, when you have savings that will take you for the next few years. Like, she doesn't have to worry about the next emergency. If her car breaks down, she's able to pay for it. If, I don't know, she broke a leg, she wouldn't have to take time off work. She can still vlog, she can still do things, and she has enough savings to live comfortably for a few years at least. So I think it's very easy to be like, oh, slow down, just enjoy the process, enjoy where you are, when you're not worried about anything financially. It's just very easy to say that, because there are many people that can't slow down because they have kids to feed, they have bills to pay, they're in debt, you know, it's very easy. And also there was another point that I forgot to write down, but I just remembered it. When she bought her Range Rover, it's a brand new Range Rover from the salon, and she said that she had a conversation with Fran, her manager, because she wanted the G-Wagon. And Fran said, don't get a G-Wagon, get something more attainable so that you appreciate the G-Wagon more when you get it in a few years' time. And she was like, yes, I ended up getting the Range Rover. A new Range Rover from the salon is not an attainable car. So her just saying that, it's just yet another one of those, like, she doesn't mean to be rude or ignorant or inconsiderate, but because of her lack of education in people's financial struggles, she just says really ignorant things that come across just really badly on camera. And I do understand why people are angry. I do get it. you know, saying things like, oh, you know, I just really desperately wanted a G-Wagon, but like my manager told me to get something more attainable, so I bought a brand new Range Rover instead. Like, oh, whoa me. Like, maybe one day I'll get the G-Wagon. People can't even afford like a £1,000 car, but they desperately need it, so they're like going in debt for, you know, an old car that's going to break down in a minute, and they're not going to have money to repair it. You know, it's... And I do understand that she's not responsible for other people's financial struggles, but I do think that she has to acknowledge the privileges that got her to where she is. Yes? Yes. Anyway, she's been now compared to Margaret Thatcher, which is a whole different conversation. That's a political conversation. I do remember Margaret Thatcher was basically just really against poor people. She didn't want to help poor people. She ended up just doing a lot of damage to the UK economy that we're still like dealing with now, basically. So she's being compared to Margaret Thatcher. There are TikTok clips going around, and I think that there is an issue to be said. I'm gonna say one thing to defend her. I think it is not in her favor that people are taking these little clips from the podcast and putting them on TikTok out of context, because anyone that doesn't watch the whole podcast is just going to get like this viewpoint. I don't think she was ignorant the whole podcast. I think she said some nice things like young people are never going to enter the property ladder, and that she would give her money away to homeless people, that she regularly gives money to homeless people. I think there are a few nice things that she said in the podcast, and I do think taking these clips and posting them on TikTok has created more outrage, but I still do think that the whole podcast was pretty ignorant as a whole when it comes to financial struggles. So I do think just like the whole thing didn't look great, but the TikTok clips didn't make it any easier on her. Like, I do think it's just, it's a lose-lose. If you listen to the whole podcast, you're going to be angry at her, but if you see these clips on TikTok, you're going to be furious at her. So either way you're angry, it's just about being more or less angry. People are saying that she is only 22. She's at that age where you can't really use age as an excuse anymore. And I don't think this has anything to do with her age. I think this has everything to do with her lack of struggles, which I've been saying the whole video. Like, I think you can be 22, but if you've gone through poverty and you've gone through financial struggles, you're going to be much more educated on the topic than Molly Mae, even if you're the same age as her. But if you're 22 and never dealt with financial struggles, you're just not going to be aware. And even if you're 30 and never dealt with financial struggles, you're not going to be aware. And at 40 and at 50. So I don't think this is an age matter. I think this is just like a life experience matter. Some people are saying that people just want to hate her. I do think that's the case with some things. I think there are always going to be people that just will look for any reason to hate you. But do I think this was a good look for her? Absolutely not. And she is definitely very ignorant and sheltered. I don't think she's ever dealt with anything that would help her understand this. And I think that's the issue with this. Anyway, her dad has spoken out in an interview recently and said that people like Molly Mae get a lot of hate for no reason. And he actually hinted at defending Elle Darby, who made a lot of racist remarks, saying that people are being called out for things they did when they were really young, even though Elle Darby was 16, 17, 18, 19, making racist remarks, which I think at that age, you're more than aware of racism. So I think her dad also comes from a very privileged background in the sense that, you know, he's a white man in a very British white area. He was a police officer. He probably was paid quite well. And I also think that he's quite sheltered. So he's sheltered on racial issues. That shows. She's sheltered on financial issues. That shows. I think before you speak on some things, you do have to educate yourself. And I think that's a problem just for everyone. Have I said things that I wasn't educated on? Absolutely. Has everyone said things that they've never been educated on? Absolutely. But it's what she does with this now that I think is like the crucial point in her career. Like, educate yourself now, Molly. Now, before this gets out of hand, yeah? Anyway, I don't hate her, but I do think some of the things that she says are, you know. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, anything to comment down below, and subscribe to post videos every time something happens or I come up with something. Hit that bell, like, comment, etc. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.